I lift up my eyes to the mountains. From where will my help come? My help comes from God, maker of heaven and earth. God will not let your foot give way. Your guardian will not slumber. See, the guardian of Israel neither slumbers nor sleeps. God is your guardian. God is your protection at your right hand. By day, the sun will not strike you, nor the moon by night. God will guard you from all harm. God will guard your life, your coming and your going forevermore. Let us find comfort in the words of the ancient sage. God, what are we that you are mindful of us? Or indeed, those who come after us, that you take account. Our lives are as vanity, for our days pass away as a shadow. In the morning we flourish and blossom forth. In the evening we are cut down and wither. You turn us to contrition and demand return, O ye children. If you were wise, you would consider your end. For when you die, you shall carry nothing away. Your glory shall not descend after you. But trust this, God does redeem the souls of the servants. None of them who trust shall be forsaken. We affirm, Hatzor Tamim Poalo Ki Chol Drachav Mishpat El Emunah Ve'ein Avel Tzadik V'Yasharhu. Thy work, O God, is perfect, for all thy ways are justice, a God of faithfulness and without iniquity, just and right. Who can say, what doest thou? Thou bringest death and giveth life. What mortal can demand of thee? What hast thou wrought? Thou alone, O God, dost righteously apportion both life and death. In thy hand is the destiny of all souls. Thou wilt not forget us. Thy mercy will surely abide with us. Blessed art thou, Judge of truth, who dost ordain death and summon us to life. We are told that King Solomon taught the following. He said, the eye is never satisfied with seeing. So young or old, those who depart this life never see enough of the world, never complete their task, never cherish their loved ones enough before they are called home. How they would yearn for yet another respite from the final summons, and how we would have yearned to have them with us, to have them close for yet another mission in life, yet another joy, yet another precious moment together. And so, God, we pray now, be with Allan's family, because their hearts are broken, that no matter when parting comes, it comes too soon. Console them at this hour when consolation seems so elusive. Be near to them when light seems so distant. Lift them up, O God, when the time will come for healing. Amen. So we are gathered in this large and loving assembly to pay tribute to the life and give honor to Allan Baskin's memory. Questions inevitably come to mind, questions that start with the word why, questions for which there are no easy answers. What is easy in this family is love. It pours out of every story, every laugh, and every memory that you shared with me. The love even poured out when the memories were remembered differently, and even when the same stories were told with conflicting details. And the love poured out when the tears flowed as well. Now, some people might be a bit concerned that I heard different versions of the same story. Some people might worry that I wasn't hearing the one true, right, and definitive story. But not this family, because as you well know, Allan always told stories. Whether they were true or not, or somewhat true or not, was of little concern to him. To Allan, the point was the story and its laugh and its lesson. What he taught so well with his stories was that truth is not a matter of the head, but of the heart. According to Sheila, her brother was always this way. There was always a story. And there have always been people to tell stories too. Family got to hear the stories most often. But Allan delighted in telling stories to anyone who would listen. Waitresses, who in fairness did have a lot of other customers to serve. Guests at the cystic fibrosis fundraisers he loved to host. Stories in the union hall, stories at the negotiating table. Members of other families sitting near him in the stands at kids' sporting events, which he never, ever, ever missed. And maybe especially he loves telling stories to Andy's radio audience. Now, Shirley, we know that your personal preference is to be quieter, more in the background. As such, you've been a perfect mate to your husband for all these 60-plus years. But you even delighted in sharing some of the stories with me. So friends, whether it is by genetics, temperament, or enculturation, they're all the same way. They love telling Allan stories. Just remember this, the truth is in the heart, not in the facts. And because the truth is in the heart, I'd like to invite first his grandchildren forward to share some stories.
Everything we learned about public speaking, we learned from Andy Baskin, News Channel 5, 92.3 The Fan. So any qualms that you have with what we say today, you can take it up with him. Our papa was known as a lot of different things to a lot of different people. He was a husband, a dad, a friend, an uncle, the crazy guy in booth number 4 annoying the waitress. But to us, he was papa. He was a fun-loving, optimistic, funny, story fabricating papa. So I think in true papa fashion, what we would like to do today is share with you some of our favorite stories or memories that kind of paint a picture of how we knew papa. And since I'm going first, I think I'd like to tell you guys my first papa memory. Me and Brad were 6 or 7 years old, and our parents were out of town, and we were staying over at our grandparents' house, and papa was taking me to a basketball game in the morning. What did I say? Me and Brad. Brad and I, according to Blake. He gets better grades than the rest of us, Scott, so I'll take his word for it. And so we're driving from their house in Richmond Heights to Solon, and we're driving down 4-lane road, Richmond Road, which might have been 5 if there's a turning lane in the middle of there. And Papa was talking some nonsense about World War II into my ear. And I see on the left side of the road, there's a person laying in the grass, just flat on her stomach. And I'm going to go, Papa, look. And he goes, is that a person? And I'm like, I think so. And he goes, we should go help her. And 7-year-old Brett's thinking, I've got a basketball game. We got to go to the basketball game. And before I can get the words out, Papa starts taking a Yui across 4-lane road, Richmond Road. And if anybody has ever driven with Papa, you know he shouldn't be doing a Yui in an empty parking lot, let alone across Richmond Road. So we pull over, we get out of the car, and this girl is passed out on the side of the road. We call 911, the ambulance comes, and she ends up being okay. She was on a walk, she was dehydrated. And we go to my basketball game, and I was late, I was a half late, and all Papa could say the whole way was, I can't believe no one pulled over the side of the road to help that person. And that was kind of the first lesson I remember, kind of selfishness in the way Papa kind of gave his life to other people more than he took. And I think that's something that he's passed down to the rest of us, his grandchildren. And I'm sure Blake's going to go next, and I'm sure Jamie's going to go next. Go ahead, Jamie.
Papa would always go to our hockey and softball games. He would always talk to strangers, and they would become friends instantly. And he would make everybody laugh. He would pick me up from school and watch me when I didn't want to be somewhere. He would teach us new and old jokes. He would take us out to eat and buy us toys and treats. I love him. Love, Bryn.
Go ahead, bud. Yeah, sit down.
My sister and I would used to always go over to their house, and we would like mess around. Papa actually taught me how to count money. And use tools and set up deck furniture and how to clean the floor. He was always smiley and happy, and he just loved to tell jokes. And he talks about history all the time to me because it's one of my favorite subjects, and we just love Papa.
We do love Papa so much, and he loved all of us, and he was so proud of each of us. Even when coming from a family of Buckeye fans, I decided to be a bit of a black sheep, and when Brett went off to OSU, I went up north to Michigan. Papa was still so proud of us, and he showed it. He wanted a shirt that on one side would have OSU logo and on the other side a Michigan logo, like those house divided shirts or flags you might see. So we got him a blue Michigan polo from Ann Arbor, and Grandma or someone ironed on an OSU logo opposite the Michigan logo. And he loved that shirt for two reasons. The second reason, it gave him a chance to talk. But the most important reason was that it gave him a chance to talk about his grandchildren. He was literally loud and proud, and he loved all of us, and everyone knew it, especially each of us. And we love you, Papa.
Thank you, everyone, for being here to celebrate the life of an incredible man. We wanted to share a quick memory with you. Whenever any of us would call Papa and Grandma's house, or we would be places, it took Papa at least 3 tries to get the names right of the person he wanted. Jess, Karen, Jamie, Beth, Bryn, when really all he wanted was Bryn. Or Brad, Blake, Ron, Andy, when he really just wanted Andy. He could never get the right name on the first try, and this became normal to all of us. We would just laugh. The ironic thing about this is that to everyone who wanted him, we mean everybody, he was Papa. All of our friends and family call him Papa. He was everyone's Papa. Always open-armed, telling jokes, talking about one of his grandchild's latest achievements, and always making people laugh. He always enjoyed having the crowd's attention. Well, Papa, the 6 of us are so lucky and thankful to have given you that title. The time and memories we have with you will never be forgotten. We love and miss you so much.
Andy?
It's hard to follow your son. I want to thank everybody over the last week. It's just been, it's been up and down. It's been crazy, and you all know. We've sat around and talked, and spent a lot of time mourning. It's not my dad. He doesn't mourn. We'd sit there where you are right now, and we'd say, you know what, one day that's me. He knew it. He's in the same seats you are right now. We were right there. Every time. Every family. All the families we know in here. My dad knew everybody. Let's not sit here, and while I know we're supposed to mourn, but that's not my dad. It's not him at all. Let's honor my father. Let's honor his life. Let's not sit here and cry. I know you're supposed to. He would say, go ahead, cry. That's what you're supposed to do. And then a couple days from now, you think about it a little bit later. He would say, it's okay to cry. People deal with their things in their own way. My dad taught me so many things. Taught all of us so many things. We could sit here for years and just sit here and talk about all the things my dad taught us. I really struggled the last 3 days. Just trying to figure out where to start. 81, I don't know, 81's the new 50 to me because he felt like he was 50. He struggled, and I've been struggling where to begin and where to end on my dad's journey. But he would always say, we're a vessel, we're just a vessel, and we're living on borrowed time. So make your time count. Be nice to people. He would say it all the time. I've never heard that story about the pulling the car over until today. Every day I learn something new, and it's awesome. There are many words to describe my dad. Just last week, we talked about treating people right. Here's a man right here that lives with no regret. There's no regret in my father's life. There isn't. He just wanted to smile. He just wanted to laugh. He did things the right way. He cared about people and people first, and he lived his entire life like that. As Local 38's first union organizer, he loved the fact that he was changing lives. And all the brotherhood in here of Local 38, thank you for being here today. It was his pride and passion. It was his fourth kid. There's no doubt about it. When he became a union organizer, it was a chance for him to embrace the moment and say, I'm going to go places and change people's lives. And I'll never forget, we're sitting in a car once, and he just came up to me and he goes, you know that guy over there? And we had just met him, and they had just talked. And he goes, that guy was in a non-union shop before I had a chance to meet him. And I went in, and I talked to these people, and I told them the benefits of being in a union. Rather than the mafia feeling that all my friends thought my dad was in the mafia because he was big and husky and had a big mouth. So maybe it was a little intimidating when we walked in the door at first. But he literally changed people's lives. He went into these shops that were unorganized, and he organized them. And guys would come back later in life, and they would say, Al, you have no idea what you did for me, for my life, for my family. You've changed it. My dad loved that. Loved that. My dad loved the fact that he was a baseball coach for 30-some years. Still, to this day, people come up to me and they say, man, your dad, he was an awesome coach. And I want to look at them, and I look at the way we look at sports right now, and I say, well, do you remember any of the scores of the games that you played in? No, I just remember your dad. You know, the lesson there is that it's about the teacher and the coach that you'll have for the rest of your life. And that's what my dad was. They would say your dad is awesome. I give my mom and dad so much credit, and I wish my brother was here today because he was so proud of my brother, so proud of me, so proud of Karen, so proud of every one of those 6 kids that just stood up here. So proud of everyone. He chose to ignore the noise about my brother being a sick or handicapped kid with cystic fibrosis back in the 1960s. He chose to ignore the noise. My mom chose to ignore the noise. Especially with me. Who has a kid after you have another kid with cystic fibrosis? My brother's last words to me were, I'm so glad mom and dad had another kid. I am too. And I thank both of them. The way my parents treated my brother gave our family confidence. We raised money for cystic fibrosis. I mean, they had a choice. They could sit back and say, my kid has cystic fibrosis, or we can do something about this. Almost 60 years later, and I can't tell you how proud I am of this, the Baskin name has raised more than $2 million to find a cure for cystic fibrosis. $2 million. All because my dad would dress up like a clown at Cedar Center and raise a nickel and dime. The cure for cystic fibrosis is in our grasp. And I know there are folks here from the foundation. And thank you guys so much for being here today, because you're going to be out of work pretty soon. Because we are finding a cure. That's something my dad wanted. That's what my brother wanted. Just last week, we talked about how my grandfather wasn't at my dad's games as a teenager because he was taking care of my great-grandfather. Rather than having bitterness, he accepted it as an old world tradition, but he created his own by never missing my games, my brother's games, or any of those 6 kids in there. My dad just 2 weeks ago was at Blake's baseball game with a hardwood chair sitting there because his back hurt, but he was there in the rain. He never missed the game. My Uncle Stuart said to me just last night, my dad owned the room when he walked in. He loved to entertain. He loved to make people laugh. He would want you to be laughing today, just as every frustrated waitress across the globe. I used to call him Nick at Night because he would repeat his jokes over and over and over. And I'm like, Dad, Nick at Night. He's, oh, did I already tell you that one? Well, I got to go find a new audience. We had a debate in the limo over here over my dad having a heartfelt conversation with his crew that they would go to lunch with all the time over what's the difference between a schmuck and a putz. He just told me this joke last week. Again, I go, Dad, I heard it, but I sat through it and listened to it again. He would say, I'm going to mess this up. I should bring it back up. He would say a putz would see a manhole cover and still fall down it after the schmuck took the manhole cover off, and then the schmuck would go in the bushes and go laugh. While we continue to laugh, my dad had this self-proclaimed media star that he wanted to be, whether it was in Father's Day commercials or just being a regular caller. Hey, how come I'm not a regular on your show? He would say all the time. Jeff loved having him on the show. I cringed and got nervous because I was afraid he would say something that would get me fired. But he loved being a self-proclaimed media star. He loved being on my radio show. And last month, as many of you know, my parents celebrated their 60th wedding anniversary, which is just an amazing feat when you look at where we are in life right now. We called him on their 60th wedding anniversary, and I brought a tape with you here today so you can hear what he had to say.
Yeah, good. Thank you. You guys waste a lot of time talking about the special guest. You have a lot of things to say. Let me talk about those quarters.
Oh, hang on. Let me hang on, Dad. Slow down for a second. Let me refresh for the people that weren't listening. So,
okay.
All right, so we were talking about what you do with kids when they're younger, and we went into this whole thing that, like, you know, my parents who, you know, they treated me miserably, but that's another story for another day. And maybe Oprah's actually called me before and said she wanted to do a network special on her own network about the way I was treated as a kid. But my parents would just hand me a bunch of quarters at the ground round and say, go play pinball, right?
Well, partially right, yeah.
And I was really good at pinball. I used to get extra balls all the time.
Yeah,
so I should know that.
Well, the truth is that I never gave you any money.
Oh, what do you
because
mean?
I just barely had enough money there to pay the tip.
Okay.
My mother used to drag all the tips out of my hand and give it to you, and then we'd come back afterwards. I got no money to leave a tip while you were over there spending all your money. And your kids are really good when they're out. They're how old, 9 and 10? We got to put them on their special table. So that
what are you talking about? You had to put them in a special table. First of all, tell everyone about the sign that you made for Mom to put on the oven. What did that sign say? It was on the oven and it was a magnet.
On the oven and
tell them.
What's that?
Tell them what it said.
We go out to eat.
No, there was a magnet you had on the oven when we lived in Cleveland Heights, and the magnet said, "For sale, oven, never used.
No, that was
call my mom."
That was an oven and a dishwasher because I wouldn't wash any. But you're talking about your kids are real good, and you guys were real good?
Yes, I was a good kid when you would take me out to eat.
Yeah, you were really great. You were 9 years old running around. Your 2 kids, I have to have special tables for them. And your brother,
yes,
he was about 4. We had him in Niagara Falls.
Yeah.
And everybody will remember, if you remember the hill in Niagara Falls when you went up on the hill,
Clifton,
there was an Italian restaurant on top of the hill.
Oh, sure, everybody remembers that.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of people.
Yes.
My age, 28 and 30.
Yeah, you're
your
after
brother's
80.
sitting there. He's about 4, and there's some guy in the other table, and he's, it's a little kid. Hi, how are you? How are you? And he's got a handful. He's got chocolate milk, and he's got a straw full of chocolate milk. and he waves at this guy. And the guy had a white shirt on, brand new shirt, and he put chocolate milk all over that guy. And we were looking at how we were going to get out of the restaurant. The guy was going to kill us. He come over and he was getting around with the.
Oh, he was
Bruce.
nice to you. Yeah, my
with
brother
Bruce,
took the
but-
chocolate milk, put it in the straw. I wasn't around for this, so
Your mother was pregnant, and I think she got labor pains watching you do that. That was terrible.
All right, thanks, Dad. He
Anyways,
took the straw, he
oh,
had
you don't wanna
chocolate
hear
milk
about
in it, and he
your
spit
kids.
it out. That's the way you tell the rest of the story. Keep going, Dad. Hurry.
We never took any little kids to the ball game because we never had tickets. We used to have to sit in the bleachers, and there was no seats for the kids.
Yes.
So we left the kids at home, and you leave yours at home too.
Okay, thanks, Dad.
Hey, Mr. B, happy anniversary.
Thank you.
Can I ask, how do you stay happily married for 60 years?
You take your wife to the beauty shop and park outside. And the best part about that is it's cheaper than taking her to a psychiatrist. The psychiatrist you can take off on your income tax, but this is still a lot cheaper. And they come out with a smile, and then they get their hair all messed up. But that's good advice for anybody that's got a problem with their wife. Take them to the beauty shop. They won't bother you with the psychiatrist. It's cheaper no matter what they do to your hair. It's not $75 a pop there, so don't worry about that. And I'll give them a good place to beauty shop here because I can get a discount here if I bring them people.
All right, let me just ask you this because Jeff asked this, and I'm leaving ourselves open to public scrutiny on this.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Jeff asked this, and again, I would ask you any advice for how do you stay married for 60 years, but I probably won't go down that road. He wanted to know, because my sister is 10 years older than me,
Yeah.
my brother Bruce 9,
Yeah.
and I was 9 years difference there. Jeff,
Right.
ask him the question.
Ask me.
I'm guessing Andy wasn't planned, Mr. B.
No, well, kind of. He thought about it one night, and that was it. And then he was here. The other two, they weren't planned either. All three of them were mistakes. Otherwise, we'd have had none, and I'd had a bigger house, and I wouldn't be having to go babysitting so much.
Goodbye, Dad. Tell Mom happy anniversary. We'll talk to you later. Hope you got all the flowers.
She can't talk now. She's got her hair on. The guy's got white stuff all over it.
All
I will
right.
tell her.
Goodbye,
I'm in the
Dad.
car. She wanted me to wait here.
All right, goodbye.
Take care,
Have a
Mr.
good
B.
day, and I'll talk to you later.
All right, goodbye, Dad. Bye.
Goodbye.
They were all mistakes.
I had a bigger house.
Maybe I need to go to the hairdresser because I need a psychiatrist after that conversation.
That was my dad. That's all you needed to know. That was my dad. He was. My dad had a wonderful wife, 3 kids that all made something of themselves, an amazing son-in-law in Ron, 2 daughter-in-laws in Beth and Cassie. He loved them all. 6 grandkids he adores and loves and will always love. He would always say, I'd say, Dad, why don't you say I love you more? He goes, you just know it. I don't have to say it. I think we all know that. My dad knew how to tell a joke, but more importantly, he knew how to take one too. We grew up just 5 blocks from this Berkowitz-Kumin. 5 blocks away, Bainbridge. My mom and dad got married across the street. Take a look at it when you walk out the door. We had a running joke that we would tell at everything, at all of our events. My dad would talk about how poor they were over here on Bainbridge. Yes, I'm telling the joke. My dad was so poor that he couldn't afford a football. So what he would do is he would wait for Sunday mornings. And we all know the tree lawns over here in this neighborhood. He was so poor that he couldn't afford a football. So he would take the Sunday plain dealer and wrap it, just like his Korean War flag right there. He would wrap it into that, and he would have that paper football, and he would go out on the lawn. He would go outside, and he would wait for the other kids in the neighborhood to come to play football with my dad, the poor kid that lived over there on Bainbridge that couldn't afford a football. So what did my dad do? He waited and waited. And then finally, he stood there and said, well, I need to play. So there was my dad with his taped up football, playing with himself. My dad would play with himself because he had no other friends and he was so poor he couldn't afford another football. Thank you all for coming today. It's been a rough week, and it's going to be okay. My dad loved everybody in this room. Everybody. His journey is now our journey, just smile, tell a joke, and love life the way he did, the way we do. We're a sitcom, and we're the Baskins. And my dad would have it no other way. Thank you all, and we love you all. And my dad loves you all. Thank you.
So what's the lesson? The lesson is that the pain is real, and the lesson is that the love is real. Allan will be greatly missed by all of us, but especially to Shirley and Sheila and Stuart, to Karen and Ronald, to Beth, to Andy and Cassie. Our hearts break with you. And you heard those unbelievable children. And now you're adding spouses and partners to the family. The table will be a little smaller, but will also grow bigger. Above all, you were the validation for Papa that the stories mattered, that telling them over and over again does mean that he will not be forgotten, that the love he had for you will live on forever. Ken Yehi Ratzon, may it be so. Amen. May Allan's memory endure among us all as a blessing. In your own time, O God, when we too are called to enter eternity, may we leave this life secure in the faith that with you is the fountain of life, that in your light we see light. The dust returns to the earth as it was, the spirit to God who gave it. God, we pray that you receive Allan's soul in mercy. Grant him that everlasting peace which you have prepared for us in the world to come. Though no human eye has seen, nor ear has heard, nor mind has grasped it, still it is our sure inheritance and our everlasting portion. May I ask those of you who are able to please rise. El Malay Rachamim Shochein Bamromim, Hamsei Menucha Nechona Tachat Kanfei Hashchina, Im Kiroshim Utohorim Kezohar Harakia Mazirim et Nishmat Alta Leber Ben David Shahalach Laolamo, Baal Harachamim Yastirehu B'Seser Kenafav Laolamim, V'yitzur B'tzorcha Chaim et Nishmato, Adonai Hu Nachalato V'yanuach B'Shalom HaMishkavo, V'nomar, Amen. O God, full of compassion, you who dwellest on high, grant perfect rest unto the soul of Allan L. Baskin, who has departed this world. Source of mercy, bring him into your presence, and let his soul be bound up in the bond of eternal life. Be thou his possession, may his repose be peace, and let us all say, Amen. Please be seated. On days such as this, we are reminded that our lives and the lives of the ones we love are rooted in a profound mystery past our understanding. In the face of eternity, we are made simple. Though we know that our destiny is but to tarry a while, the time of separation brings on anguish and grief. May we bear our burden. May we struggle through the darkness with courage to find our way again. So let all of you who mourn the loss of our beloved Allan, and remember at this time the sweet companionship, the stories, and the cherished hopes that have passed away with him, give ear to the word of comfort spoken in the name of God. Only the body has died and will be laid in the ground. The spirit lives in the shelter of God's love and mercy. Our loved ones continue also in the remembrance of those to whom they were precious. Their deeds of loving kindness, the true and beautiful words they spoke, are treasured up as incentives by which the living honor the dead. And so we pray, O God, author of life and death, Our wisdom is small, our vision short. One by one, our companions, passing along the road of life, disappear from our view. We know that each must walk the same path to the doorway of the grave. We strain to see what lies beyond the gate, but all is darkness to our mortal sight. Yet even the darkness is not too dark for you, O God, for with you the night shines as the day. You have created us in your image and made us to share in your enduring righteousness. You have put eternity into our hearts. You have implanted within us a vision of life everlasting. This hope we cherish in humility and faith, trusting in your endless goodness and your wondrous love. So into your hands we commit Allan's spirit. Pray, let us know that you keep faith with your children in death as in life. Amen. For those who care to, would you join me, please, in the 23rd Psalm? The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He guideth me in straight paths for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of my enemies. Thou hast anointed my head with oil. My cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Please know that Shiva will be observed at Beth Baskin's home on South Woods Lane in Solon, today upon return from the cemetery until 9 p.m., tomorrow from 1 to 5, Saturday evening from 6 to 9 p.m., and Sunday again from 1 to 5. And contributions, if you are so moved, are suggested to the Cystic Fibrosis Foundation. A final thought before we depart for the cemetery. It comes from Chaim Potok. We live less than the time it takes to blink an eye if we measure our lives against eternity. So it may be asked, what value is there to a human life? There is so much pain in the world. What does it mean to have to suffer so much if our lives are nothing more than the blink of an eye? I learned a long time ago that the blink of an eye in itself is nothing, but the eye that blinks, that is something. A span of life is nothing, but the person who lives the span is something. A person can fill that tiny span with meaning. Meaning is not automatically given to life. It is hard to fill one's life with meaning. But a life filled with meaning is worthy of rest.